Big cat rescue. Feeding small cats. Yellow level keeper class. Feeding policies and procedures. Preparing to feed. Feeding the cats starts approximately 1 hour prior to dusk, and the exact time is set by the coordinator. Assigned feeders, feeder trainees, and interns should check the board and food prep for route assignments and any special diets and instructions, as well as the important updates section of the bigcatrescue.me site for any major announcements prior to the start of feeding. Buckets are marked according to the assigned routes and are kept refrigerated prior to feeding. Feeders should take an extra pair of gloves in their pocket. Feeders should have a functional radio with them at all times. Cell phones should be left behind or muted before starting to feed. Any disruption to the feeder can cause cats to be missed or vital observations to go unnoticed. All big cat, lions, tigers, and other clawed Class 1 cats lockout doors must be closed prior to the start of feeding by a certified senior keeper big cat feeder to lock the big cats out of the lockout area until the food has been placed inside. Meds must be prepared and distributed to the cats by a senior keeper feeder that has been certified in med distribution prior to the start of feeding. Transport. Hand-pulled carts are used to transport the food during feeding a route. These carts should be loaded with the appropriate amounts of ground meat as well as additional foods. Additional foods consist of necks, chicks, red meat, chicken quarters, rats, rabbits, etc. Food items should be in buckets at all times. This includes bags of ground meat. This prevents dripping on the sanctuary grounds, which draws pests, and contamination of the cart. Observations. Feeders are responsible for observing every animal that is fed. Be sure to make note of any abnormalities in the animal's gait as they approach the lockout. This is a time when any limping can easily be observed. During the day, many animals are only observed sleeping or lying down. At feeding time, any limping or issues affecting their gait can be detected and reported. Step back to a safe distance from the lockout and look the animal over completely, noting any injuries, any difficulties eating, or a lack of interest in food. Observations are critical during the feeding process. It is the one time during the day that the animal can be completely observed. Take the time to accurately assess the animal. Any unseen cats should be reported first to the senior keeper feeder assigned to the route, and if necessary, to a coordinator. Record any unusual observations in the vet observation log or the food and feces log located on the bigcatrescue.me site prior to leaving the property. Feeding procedures. Never underestimate the speed of an animal. Though they may be on the other side of their cage, they can be in their lockout quicker than a feeder might ever expect. Assure food for an animal is unwrapped, portioned, and ready to deliver before approaching the animal waiting in their lockout. The feeder will never place a hand or arm into a lockout for any reason. All food is to be delivered safely by tossing, pitching, or dropping it through the cage wire from a safe distance, i.e., the animal cannot reach your hand.
So if a cat is not in their lockout, that's perfect time to take advantage and get the food in. But you always want to make sure that you do at least visually see the cat. Okay, come on, Will Will. I'm going to take his mush and I'm going to make like a little tube like that. Little tube.
The food should be delivered onto the feeding block or into the ant-resistant bowls where available. If food rolls out or slides out of the lockout, the feeder should never retrieve it with their hand. A long stick may be used to pull the food safely away from the lockout area so that it can be redelivered onto the food block or into the ant-resistant bowls. If for some reason the food cannot be retrieved, give the animal another portion and try to retrieve the food at a later time when the animal is not in the vicinity and it can be done safely. A feeder must be totally familiar with the food-aggressive nature of cats sharing an enclosure and the order of feeding them to ensure their safety.
One of you guys out of here. Come on. Hey. One of you guys has got to come out. Come on. Come on, Tino. Come on, Tino. Good boy.
Feeding amounts. Feeders are trained proper amounts to feed each cat through the training and observation process. Mush is fed to the cats in 1 tube, 1/2 tube, 1/4 tube, softball, baseball, golf ball, etc. sized amounts. Additional foods including whole prey, chicken, and beef vary from day to day. Special diets. Some cats have special dietary needs or have supplements added to their food. These are called special diets. A list of cats that have been prescribed special diets is located in Food Prep. Special diets are pre-made and stored in either Ziploc bags or smaller bowls or buckets. These are clearly labeled with the animals' names. All feeders should know which animals receive special diets. The special diets are located in the refrigerator in the appropriate large route buckets. Routes. Feeders must know the layouts of the routes and must be aware of any cats that have been moved to a new cage by always checking the important update section on the volunteer resources page of the BigCatRescue.me site before feeding. Each route must have at least one senior feeder and, if available, one certified feeder. Each route may only have 2 volunteers or interns observing or being observed feeding. Feeder trainees will learn the proper techniques for feeding each animal through the observation and training process. Feeder trainees must observe certified trainers feeding the cats of each route 3 times. After this, the feeder trainee must feed with instruction from a trainer 3 times on each route before becoming certified to feed each route unsupervised. Certification is at the trainer's and the operation manager's discretion, and feeder trainees may require more than the 3 observations or instructional sessions. Upon completion of a route, assigned feeders should ask via radio if any other routes need assistance. If another route answers yes, only feeders that are certified for that route should go and assist the feeders at the requested location. If the answer is no, then the feeders should begin cleanup procedures. Safety procedures. Feeders must at all times observe the highest standards of safety. Feeders are only permitted to feed cats at the same level that they are certified to feed. All animals are to be fed in their lockout only. No body parts may pass into the cage or within reaching distance of any cat. All lockout doors will be down on all lions, tigers, and clawed Class 1 animals prior to placing food in their lockout. Any feeder not confident in feeding a particular cat safely should notify a trainer or a senior feeder and should not feed that animal under any circumstances. Barricade gates must be used. Cleanup. Cleaning procedures are posted in food prep and must be followed every night. When washing bowls and buckets, extra care should be given to rinsing to remove traces of soap or bleach. Carts should also be cleaned and placed in their storage area. The dry erase board end of the day checklist should be completed and any instructions followed. The feeding checklist should also be completed on the clipboard. The trash should be removed and thrown away in the dumpster. The coordinator should be consulted regarding what to do with any leftover foods.